I love someone else, Jackson, and I don't care how you feel, said Madison, my fiancée, throwing the ring in my face. I smiled and calmly replied. Jackson leaned back in his chair, the glow of his laptop screen casting shadows in his small Seattle apartment. The code he was debugging blurred as his mind wandered to tonight, his third anniversary with Madison. 3 years of shared dreams, late-night talks, and sacrifices that felt worth it because of her. He'd turned down a dream job in Silicon Valley to stay in Seattle, convinced they were building something real. Tonight, he'd make it unforgettable. A romantic dinner at the Pink Door, with its stunning view of Puget Sound, was the perfect setting to celebrate. He'd reserved a table weeks ago, even splurged on a pair of sapphire earrings that cost him 3 months of overtime. Madison deserved it. She was his spark, the charismatic event planner who lit up every room. Jackson, a reserved programmer, felt their differences made them unstoppable. She was the extrovert who pulled him out of his shell. He was the steady anchor who grounded her. He glanced at his phone. 6:15 p.m. Time to get moving. The restaurant was a short walk from Pike Place Market, and he wanted to arrive early to ensure everything was perfect. He grabbed the small velvet box with the earrings, slipped it into his pocket, and headed out into the cool Seattle evening. The city buzzed with energy. Street musicians played near the market, and the salty breeze from the waterfront filled the air. Jackson's nerves tingled, but excitement overpowered them. He imagined Madison's reaction when he'd give her the gift, her eyes lighting up the way they did when she was genuinely happy. Maybe she'd tease him for being so sentimental, but he knew she'd love it. At the Pink Door, the host led him to a corner table with a view of the water, just as he'd requested. The restaurant hummed with conversation, clinking glasses, and the faint strum of live music. Jackson checked his watch, 7 p.m. Madison was running late, not unusual for her. She was probably caught up finalizing details for some high-profile event. Her job demanded constant attention, and Jackson admired her hustle, even if it sometimes left him waiting. He texted her at the restaurant. Can't wait to see you. No response, but he wasn't worried. Yet, 10 minutes passed. Then 20. His fingers tapped the table, the velvet box heavy in his pocket. He sipped his water, trying to ignore the growing knot in his stomach. At 7:30, his phone buzzed. A text from Madison, running late. Be there soon. Relief washed over him, but it was short-lived. By 8 o'clock, the server had stopped by twice, offering a sympathetic smile as Jackson ordered a glass of wine to pass the time. He checked his phone again. No new messages. The couple at the next table laughed, their hands intertwined, and Jackson felt a pang of envy. Where was she? Finally, at 8:15, Madison swept through the door. She moved with her usual confidence, her presence turning heads as she crossed the restaurant. Jackson stood, forcing a smile, but something was off. Her eyes didn't meet his with their usual warmth. She slid into the chair across from him, barely acknowledging the view or the effort he'd put into the evening. Sorry I'm late, she said, her tone clipped. Work was crazy. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through notifications as the server approached. Jackson pushed down his frustration. No worries. I got us this spot for a reason. Thought we could celebrate properly. He reached for the velvet box, his heart picking up speed. I have something for you. Madison glanced up, her expression distracted. That's sweet, Jackson, but hold off. I need to tell you something. Her words hit like a cold wave. She set her phone down, but her fingers lingered on it, as if it were her lifeline. I've been thinking a lot lately. About us. Jackson's hand froze on the box. What's going on? His voice was steady, but his pulse wasn't. She sighed, leaning back in her chair. I'm not happy. I haven't been for a while. There's someone else, Tyler. He's different. He gets me in a way you don't. Her words were blunt, slicing through the air between them. I want to end this. Us. I'm sorry, but I'm done. The restaurant noise faded to a dull hum. Jackson stared at her, processing the betrayal. Tyler? He'd heard the name before, a flashy influencer she'd worked with on a few events. Jackson had met him once, all charm and no substance, the kind of guy who thrived on attention. You're serious? Jackson asked, his voice low. Madison nodded, her jaw set. I am. I need to be honest with myself. With you. She slid her engagement ring off her finger and placed it on the table. The small diamond glinted under the restaurant's soft lighting, a symbol of everything he believed in, now discarded. Jackson's chest tightened, but he didn't beg or plead. Something in her cold delivery, Her refusal to even look remorseful kept him grounded. "How long?" he asked. "Does it matter?" She shot back, already checking her phone again. A notification popped up, and Jackson caught a glimpse of a message from her friend Lauren. "You sure about Tyler? I heard he's bad news." Madison swiped it away, but not before Jackson saw it. "It matters to me," he said, his tone sharper now. "But clearly not to you." She rolled her eyes. "Don't make this dramatic, Jackson. We're done. Let's move on." She stood, grabbing her bag. "I'll get my stuff from your place tomorrow." As she walked out, leaving the ring on the table, Jackson sat frozen. The server approached, hesitating. "Can I get you anything else, sir?" Jackson shook his head, pocketing the ring and the unopened velvet box. The weight of her words pressed down on him, but so did that message he'd glimpsed. Tyler was bad news? His programmer's mind kicked into gear, already piecing together a plan. Madison thought she could walk away without consequences, but Jackson wasn't the type to just let go. Not without answers. Jackson walked out of the pink door, the Seattle night air biting at his skin. The velvet box with the sapphire earrings pressed against his thigh, a bitter reminder of the evening's collapse. Madison's words echoed in his head. "There's someone else, Tyler. I'm done." The engagement ring, now in his other pocket, felt like a lead weight. He planned to celebrate 3 years with her, but instead, she discarded him like a canceled event. The glimpse of that text from her friend Lauren, "You sure about Tyler? I heard he's bad news," gnawed at him. Something wasn't right, and Jackson wasn't about to let it go. Back at his apartment, he powered up his laptop, the hum of the machine grounding him. As a programmer, he thrived on solving puzzles, and Tyler was a puzzle he intended to crack. Madison might think she'd moved on, but Jackson wasn't ready to be written off. He opened a browser and started digging. A quick search on Instagram pulled up Tyler's profile. At Tyler Vibe, a curated feed of flashy cars, rooftop parties, and shirtless gym selfies. The guy screamed influencer cliché, with thousands of followers lapping up his "live your best life" captions. But Jackson's gut told him there was more beneath the polished surface. He cross-referenced Tyler's posts with comments and tags, his fingers flying across the keyboard. A pattern emerged. Women, always different ones, appearing in his stories at exclusive events, only to vanish weeks later. Jackson switched to LinkedIn, finding a sparse profile listing Tyler as a brand consultant with no verifiable work history. Suspicious, but not damning. Then he hit pay dirt on a lesser-known forum where users shared warnings about online scams. A thread titled "Tyler v. Seattle Con Artist" caught his eye. Anonymous posters claimed Tyler had a history of charming women, promising them connections to elite social circles, only to ghost them after draining their money or contacts. Jackson leaned back, his mind racing. The accusations aligned with Lauren's text. Was Madison walking into a trap? Part of him wanted to warn her, but her cold dismissal at the restaurant held him back. She'd made her choice. Still, he couldn't let Tyler skate by if he was a fraud. Jackson's next move was calculated. He set up a burner email and sent an anonymous tip to Lauren, linking the forum thread. "Check this out before Madison gets in too deep," he wrote, keeping it vague. He didn't need credit. He just needed the truth to surface. The next morning, Jackson woke to a text from Madison. "I'm coming by at 10 to grab my stuff." No apology, no hesitation, just demands. He stared at the message, his resolve hardening. If she wanted to play it cold, he'd match her energy. By 10 a.m., he boxed up her belongings, books, a few sweaters, her favorite coffee mug, and left them by the door. When she arrived, she barely looked at him, grabbing the boxes with a curt "thanks." No mention of Tyler, no regret. As she left, Jackson noticed her phone buzzing with notifications. Lauren must have shared the tip. Over the next week, Jackson threw himself into work, taking on extra coding projects to keep his mind off the breakup. His tech startup was scaling fast, and a promotion was on the horizon. He'd turned down Silicon Valley for Madison, but now, with her gone, Seattle felt like a fresh start. Still, Tyler's shadow lingered. Jackson kept tabs on his socials, noticing a new post, Tyler and Madison at a rooftop bar, her arm around him, captioned, "New chapter, new vibes." The comments were a mix of heart emojis and subtle shade from Madison's friends. "Hope you know what you're doing, girl," one read. Jackson smirked. The cracks were forming. Then a break. While grabbing coffee at a downtown shop, Jackson ran into Emma, a colleague from his startup. She was warm and sharp, always quick with a joke to lighten tense meetings. They'd bonded over late-night coding sessions, but Jackson had kept things professional because of Madison. Now, single and raw, he found himself opening up when Emma asked how he was holding up. Rough week, he admitted, keeping it vague. She didn't pry, just offered to grab drinks later to decompress. Her easy kindness was a stark contrast to Madison's detachment, and Jackson agreed, feeling a flicker of something new. That evening, over beers at a low-key brewery, Emma shared her own story of a bad breakup, laughing about how she'd learned to spot red flags. "You ever get gut feeling someone's too good to be true?" she asked. Jackson nodded, thinking of Tyler. He didn't spill everything, but her words stuck with him. Back home, he dug deeper, finding an old news article about a Tyler Vaughn linked to a fraud case in Portland, dropped due to lack of evidence, but the details matched. Jackson forwarded the article to Lauren's burner email, adding, "Madison deserves to know who she's with." Days later, his phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. It was Lauren, her voice tense. "Jackson, did you send me those links about Tyler?" He played it cool, neither confirming nor denying. She pressed on. "Madison's freaking out. She confronted Tyler, and he got defensive, said it was all lies. But she's starting to doubt him." Jackson stayed silent, letting Lauren fill the gaps. "She's moving in with him anyway," Lauren added, exasperated. "I tried to warn her." Jackson hung up, a mix of vindication and pity settling in. Madison was digging her own hole, but he wasn't done. He reached out to a friend in cybersecurity, asking for a discreet check on Tyler's financials. The response came fast. Tyler had a trail of unpaid debts and flagged accounts, all under aliases. Jackson compiled the evidence into a single file, ready to share if needed. He wasn't out for revenge, just justice. If Madison ignored the warnings, that was on her. As the week ended, Jackson met Emma again, this time for a hike in the Olympic National Forest. Her laughter and easy conversation felt like a lifeline, pulling him out of the darkness Madison left behind. He didn't tell her about Tyler or the breakup, but her presence reminded him what genuine connection felt like. Meanwhile, Madison's latest Instagram story showed her at another party with Tyler, her smile strained. Jackson closed the app, done watching her unravel. He'd set the truth in motion. Now it was up to her to face it. Jackson's fingers hovered over his keyboard, the compiled evidence on Tyler glowing on his screen. Bank records, forum posts, and that old Portland fraud case painted a clear picture. Tyler was a con artist, preying on people like Madison who were drawn to his flash. Jackson had already sent anonymous tips to her friend Lauren, planting seeds of doubt. He wasn't out to destroy Madison. She'd made her choice, but he couldn't let Tyler walk away scot-free. The question was how far to take it. He leaned back in his Seattle apartment, the hum of the city outside grounding him. His startup's latest project deadline loomed, but this felt more urgent. His phone buzzed. Emma, checking if he was free for coffee. Their hike last week had left him lighter, her easy humor a stark contrast to Madison's calculated charm. He typed back, "Meet you at Lupanier in 30. Work could wait." He needed a break from the Tyler rabbit hole. At the bakery near Pike Place Market, Emma was already waiting, a croissant and 2 coffees on the table. "You look like you're carrying the world," she said, sliding a cup toward him. Jackson managed a half smile, deflecting with a vague, "Just work stuff?" He didn't mention Madison or Tyler, but Emma's knack for reading people made him wonder if she sensed more. Their conversation flowed, tech trends, her latest project, a funny story about a bug that crashed their app. For the first time in weeks, Jackson felt present, not haunted by Madison's betrayal. As they parted, Emma's hand brushed his arm. "You're good company, Jackson. Don't let the world weigh you down." Her words stuck with him, a reminder of what he could have if he let go of the past. Back home, he made a decision. One final move against Tyler, then he was done. Jackson crafted a new anonymous email, this time to Madison's entire friend group, including a few of her event planning colleagues. He attached the damning file, screenshots, financial records, the Portland article, and wrote, "Tyler's not who he seems. Protect yourselves." He hit send, then closed his laptop. No more digging. If Madison ignored this, it was her funeral. He deleted Tyler's social media from his bookmarks and blocked Madison's number for good measure. The weight in his chest eased slightly. 2 days later, Lauren called again, her voice frantic. "Jackson, it's bad. Madison moved in with Tyler, but she saw your email. She's freaking out," so she confronted him, and he flipped. told her it's all lies, but she found weird transfers in his bank app. Jackson stayed calm, feigning ignorance. What email? Laura didn't buy it. Come on, I know it's you. She's a mess, Jackson. She's talking about leaving him, but she's too stubborn to admit she's wrong. Jackson ended the call with a neutral, hope she figures it out. He wasn't her savior. At work, Jackson's focus sharpened. His team was building a new app feature, and his clean code earned praise from his boss. A promotion was on the table, one that could mean stock options and a corner office. He threw himself into it, staying late to refine algorithms. But Madison's drama crept back. A mutual friend, Chris, texted him, "Madison's telling everyone you're trying to ruin her life with lies about Tyler." Jackson rolled his eyes. Of course she'd spin it. He didn't respond. Let her dig her own grave. Then a twist. While grabbing lunch at a food truck, Jackson overheard two women at a nearby table. "That influencer guy, Tyler? Total scam. My cousin worked with him on an event, and he never paid her. She's suing him now." Jackson's ears perked up. The lawsuit was news, public record, easy to verify. A quick search on his phone confirmed it. Tyler Vaughn, sued for breach of contract by a small event company. The case was recent, filed just last week. Jackson forwarded the court filing to Lauren, adding, "More proof. Up to you guys now." That night, Emma invited him to a trivia night at a Capitol Hill bar. Jackson hesitated. Bars weren't his scene, but her enthusiasm won him over. The place was packed, teams shouting answers over beers. Emma's quick wit carried their team, and when she high-fived him after nailing a tech question, he felt a spark he hadn't expected. They won second place, and, as they split the prize, a gift card, Emma grinned. "We make a good team, Jackson." He nodded, realizing he was starting to let her in. The next morning, his phone lit up with a text from Chris. "Madison's done with Tyler. Found out he was scamming her friends too. She's moving out." Jackson didn't reply. He'd set the dominoes falling, and they'd toppled without him lifting another finger. But a small part of him wondered if Madison would come crawling back, expecting him to pick up the pieces. He pushed the thought aside, focusing on a new email from his boss. The promotion was his, effective next month. A raise, a new title, and a chance to lead a project. Seattle was his city now, and he was building a life without Madison's shadow. As he walked to work, the space needle sharp against the morning sky, his phone buzzed again. An unknown number. He ignored it, suspecting it was Madison. Let her stew. He had a meeting to prep for and a trivia rematch with Emma on Friday. For the first time in weeks, Jackson felt like he was moving forward, not just reacting. Tyler's house of cards was collapsing, and Madison was learning the hard way what happens when you bet on the wrong person. Jackson wasn't gloating. He was just done. Jackson's phone buzzed as he stepped off the bus near his office in downtown Seattle. Another unknown number. He silenced it, assuming it was Madison again. She'd been calling for days, leaving voicemails he deleted without listening. The truth about Tyler had unraveled her world, and Jackson wasn't surprised. She'd always chased the spotlight, blind to the shadows it cast. His anonymous emails to her friends had done their job. Tyler's scam was exposed, and Madison was left to deal with the fallout. Jackson, meanwhile, was focused on his new promotion. Leading a project at his tech startup meant longer hours, but also a chance to prove himself. He wasn't about to let Madison's drama derail him. At work, he dove into a team meeting, pitching a new app feature to streamline user data. His confidence earned nods from his boss, and by noon, he'd secured approval to prototype it. As he grabbed coffee from the break room, Emma popped in, her laptop under her arm. "Heard you killed it in there," she said, grabbing a mug. "Drinks to celebrate tonight?" Jackson hesitated. His instinct was to keep things professional, but her warmth was hard to resist. "Sure," he said. "That dive bar on Pine." She grinned. "You're on." After work, Jackson walked to the bar, the Seattle skyline glowing under a rare clear sky. Emma was already there, saving a spot at a high-top table. Over beers, she shared stories of her latest coding sprint, making him laugh with her impersonation of their overly serious project manager. Jackson felt himself relax, the knot in his chest loosening. He hadn't told her about Madison or Tyler, but Emma's easy presence made it easier to let go of the past. As they left, she nudged his shoulder. "You're not half bad at unwinding, Jackson." He smiled, realizing he was starting to look forward to these moments. The next day, his friend Chris texted, "Madison's a wreck. Tyler took off with her savings, cleaned out her account. She's crashing at Lawrence. Jackson read it twice, a mix of pity and detachment settling in. He'd warned her indirectly, but she'd chosen to ignore the red flags. Now she was paying the price. He didn't reply, instead turning his focus to debugging code. But the calls from the unknown number persisted, 3 in one morning. Finally, he picked up, ready to shut it down. "What do you want, Madison?" he said, voice flat. "Jackson, please." Her voice cracked, thick with tears. "I messed up. I need to see you." She was outside his apartment, she said, begging for a chance to talk. Against his better judgment, he agreed to meet her at a nearby park. When he arrived, Madison was pacing near a bench, her phone clutched tightly. She launched into apologies the moment she saw him. "I was wrong about everything," she said. "Tyler lied to me, took my money, ruined my life. I should have stayed with you." Jackson listened, arms crossed. Her words were desperate, but they didn't stir him. He'd spent weeks imagining this moment, expecting to feel anger or vindication, but all he felt was indifference. "You made your choice," he said. "You threw away 3 years for a guy you barely knew. I'm not your backup plan." She reached for his hand, but he stepped back. "I've changed, Jackson. I see it now. Please, give me another chance." Her eyes were red, her voice shaky, but Jackson's resolve didn't waver. He thought of Emma's laugh, the new life he was building, the promotion that proved he was enough. "You don't get to walk back and like nothing happened," he said. "I'm done." As he turned to leave, Madison called after him, her voice rising. "You're really going to let me suffer? After everything we had?" Jackson didn't stop. He'd given her everything once, and she'd tossed it aside. The park's gravel crunched under his feet as he walked away, her pleas fading behind him. By the time he reached his apartment, his phone was silent. He blocked the unknown number and deleted her contact, closing that chapter for good. That evening, Emma texted, asking if he was up for a movie night at her place. Jackson said yes, grabbing a six-pack and heading to her apartment in Capitol Hill. When he arrived, she was setting out popcorn and a stack of sci-fi DVDs. "Your pick," she said, tossing him the remote. They settled on Blade Runner, and as the opening credits rolled, Emma's shoulder brushed his. It felt natural, unforced. Halfway through, she paused the movie to debate the ethics of AI, her passion for tech matching his own. Jackson found himself laughing, genuinely engaged for the first time in months. Later, as he walked home, his phone buzzed with a work email. His prototype was greenlit for testing, a big step toward launching the app. He smiled, the pieces of his life clicking into place. Madison's collapse wasn't his victory. He hadn't needed to ruin her. She'd done that herself. But exposing Tyler had protected others, and that was enough. He thought of Emma, her kindness, her sharp mind. Maybe she was a friend, maybe more. Either way, he was open to finding out. Back at his apartment, he opened his laptop to review code, but a notification caught his eye, a news alert about a local influencer arrested for fraud. Tyler's name wasn't a headline, linked to multiple complaints from event planners and clients. Jackson skimmed it unsurprised. The truth had caught up, just as he'd known it would. He closed the tab, his focus shifting to the future. Tomorrow, he'd pitch his next idea at work. Friday, he'd see Emma again. Madison was a ghost, and ghosts didn't get to haunt him anymore. Jackson's laptop hummed as he finalized the app prototype, the Seattle skyline a faint glow through his apartment window. His promotion was official, and the startup CEO had praised his work in a company-wide email. The past month had been a whirlwind. New responsibilities, late nights coding, and a growing connection with Emma. Madison's betrayal, once a raw wound, was now a distant ache. He hadn't heard from her since their tense meeting in the park, where he'd walked away from her tearful pleas. The news of Tyler's arrest for fraud, splashed across local headlines, confirmed what Jackson had known all along. The truth always catches up. He leaned back, checking his phone. Emma had texted, "Trivia rematch tonight? I'm bringing my A game." Jackson grinned, typing back, "You're going down." Their easy banter had become a highlight of his week, a stark contrast to the chaos Madison brought. He was starting to see Emma differently, not just as a colleague or friend, but someone who made him want to open up again. Tonight's trivia at the Capitol Hill bar would be another step, and he was ready for it. Before heading out, Jackson skimmed a new email from his cybersecurity friend. Tyler's fraud case was expanding. More victims had come forward, including some of Madison's event planning contacts. The evidence Jackson had anonymously shared with her friends had sparked a chain reaction, exposing Tyler's scams across Seattle's social scene. Jackson felt no glee, just quiet satisfaction. He hadn't set out to ruin anyone. He'd only wanted the truth out there. Madison's downfall was her own doing. At the bar, Emma was already at their usual table, scribbling on a trivia answer sheet. "You're late," she teased, sliding a beer his way. "Had to start without you." Jackson laughed, settling in. The trivia game was lively, with their team, now joined by a few of Emma's friends, neck and neck for first place. When Jackson nailed a question about obscure coding languages, Emma high-fived him, her hand lingering a moment longer than usual. "You're showing off now," she said, her eyes bright. He shrugged, but the warmth in his chest was undeniable. Halfway through the game, his phone buzzed. A text from Lauren. "Madison wants to talk. She's at my place, says she needs closure." Jackson frowned, setting the phone face down. Emma noticed. "Everything okay?" she asked, her tone gentle but not prying. He hesitated, then decided to be honest. "Extrema. Nothing I can't handle." Emma nodded, squeezing his arm. "If you need to vent, I'm here." Her offer was simple, but meant more than she knew. After trivia, they took first place. Jackson and Emma stepped outside. The cool night air relief after the crowded bar. "Walk me home," she asked. As they strolled through Capitol Hill, Emma shared a story about a coding bug that nearly tanked her last project, making Jackson laugh harder than he had in weeks. At her apartment door, she paused. "I'm glad we're doing this, Jackson. You're different. In a good way." He smiled, unsure how to respond, but feeling the same. "Night, Emma," he said, heading home with a lightness he hadn't felt in months. The next day, Jackson agreed to meet Madison at a coffee shop near Pike Place Market. He wasn't sure why. Maybe to end things on his terms, maybe to confirm he was truly over her. She was already there when he arrived, stirring a latte, her posture slumped. "Thanks for coming," she said, her voice low. "I owe you an apology. For everything." She admitted to ignoring the warnings about Tyler, chasing his promises of a glamorous life. He drained her savings, left her with nothing but debt and a tarnished reputation in her industry. "I thought I knew better," she said. "I thought you were holding me back." Jackson listened, his expression neutral. Her words didn't spark anger or pain, just clarity. "You chose what you wanted," he said. "I'm not here to fix your mistakes." Madison's eyes welled up, but she nodded. "I know. I just needed you to hear me say I was wrong." She reached for his hand, but he pulled back, standing. "Take care, Madison," he said, leaving her at the table. As he walked out, the weight of their past lifted completely. Back at work, Jackson's prototype was a hit during testing, earning him a meeting with investors. His confidence grew, mirrored by his personal life. He and Emma started spending more time together. Movie nights, hikes, even coding side projects. One evening, while working on a game app at her place, she leaned over his shoulder to check his code, her hand brushing his. "You're pretty good at this," she said, smirking. "Maybe I'll keep you around." Jackson laughed, turning to face her. "Maybe I'll let you." Their eyes met, and for the first time, he didn't hesitate. He kissed her, brief but certain, and she kissed him back. Weeks later, Jackson read an update on Tyler's case. He'd pleaded guilty, facing years in prison. Madison had moved to Portland, starting over at a small event firm, her social media silent. Jackson didn't dwell on it. His life was full. His startup was thriving. His project was set to launch, and Emma was now a constant, her presence grounding and exciting all at once. They planned a weekend trip to the San Juan Islands, a chance to unplug and see where things led. As Jackson packed for the trip, he found a velvet box with the sapphire earrings in a drawer. He meant to sell them, but hadn't gotten around to it. Instead, he handed them to Emma during their ferry ride, explaining they were from a past he'd let go. "They'd look better on you," he said. She smiled, slipping them on, and leaned against him as the ferry cut through the water. The moral was clear. You don't need revenge when you choose yourself. Madison's choices cost her, but Jackson's led him to a life he'd built on his own terms, one he wouldn't trade for anything.